Hi everyone, it's a ticket to Christ. Thank you for tuning back in. We're still in the discipline series and we are discussing the time, using our time, being disciplined in our time. And we're looking at Ecclesiastes 3, starting from verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to weep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Okay, so the scriptures tell us, the scripture here tells us that there is a time and a season. Now, a time meaning a period, but I think it even means to the minute, because when you look at the life of Jesus, you see Jesus did everything within the timing of God. And if God did not tell him to do it, Jesus didn't move. He didn't do it. So there was a specific time for certain things to be done, and he kept to the timing of God. And so we see it here in that scripture. Everyone has, this is the pattern of human life, of the human journey, from your birth to your death. And he's mapping out the seasonal patterns that we all go through, right? Those of you who said, well, I have never killed. Well, you've killed a bug, right? You've killed a fly, I'm sure. He's shown, and I don't think he's talking about on an individual level necessarily. This also can be on a, group level, a time and season where you see even in families, groups, houses, that things happen and take place, right? And so similarly, when we're looking at how to be disciplined in our time, we have to understand the season and time of our life. If you don't understand the season of your life and your time, you could miss out, on maybe what God intended for you for that time, because you're not paying attention. You're not in keeping with your season, with the time. For example, if you are when you see a baby, okay, that baby, that's in the baby stages, right? But if the baby is still in the baby stages and they're 15, then there's something off, right? They didn't get something. And it's the same way in our spiritual walk and in our lives. Even as we grow, there are things that are for one particular season, maybe when we were babies, a bottle and drinking milk. But for another season, it's just not appropriate and it wouldn't fit. And so in dealing with being disciplined about our time, I think it's important to really examine what season you're in your life and what time. And it's going to be different for everyone because, everyone is coming from a different age, a different growth period. And based on that, will enable you to know how to manage your time, how to prioritize your life. And a lot of times with people, the trouble is they're not managing their time effectively. So there's a lot of wasted time in between where things could happen. Sometimes people dilly-dally so much on a telephone call talking that they're late or spending too much time sleeping, oversleeping, hitting that snooze button, going late to work. And there's a trickle-down impact on that. And so the importance of being disciplined, like Jesus was disciplined with his time, is cannot be understated. I can't say it enough. It's just important because everything hinges on how you use your time. And we see, if we turn to Mark chapter 1, how Jesus started out his day, right? How he used his time. He knew he had a busy, busy day. And it says in Mark chapter 1, verse 35, it says, and in the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place and there prayed. So Jesus had to leave his house, wherever he was staying, get up early before everybody got up and went to a solitary spot to spend time with God. Why? Because there are people, all probably, a lot of people in that house. If he tried to get up and go someplace, someone would find him or they would hear him. And he needed to spend that quality time with God, that intimate time whereby he could, pray to the Father, get anchored, get instructions, get direction, whatever it was. But he relied completely on God to direct his steps, moment by moment, step by step. Jesus, who is God's son, was this reliant on God, what to say about you and I. And so the most important thing we can do with our time every day is to pray, spend time with God, make it a priority to spend time with God. And throughout the scriptures, you see that Jesus made it a priority. Hebrews 5, verse 7, it says, I'll just read these. Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and he was heard in that he feared. Right? So Jesus prayed, offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears to God, right? Who was able to save him from death. Jesus prayed fervently while on earth. Luke chapter 3, verse 21, it's another scripture here on Jesus praying. It says, now when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened. So this is when Jesus was starting his ministry and came to John the Baptist to be baptized. And it says that as he was being baptized, he was praying and the heavens opened up. So we see nonstop praying. Matthew chapter 14, verse 23. And I got these scriptures on Google. You just Google. There are people who have these blogs with scriptures. It's very easy to find. And then it says here, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the even was come, he was there alone. So Jesus, often went aside into a mountain to pray, to spend that time with his Father. And so the wise way to start your day and to populate your day is to make sure that throughout your day, you're taking time to spend time with God in prayer and to just really worship, not just asking, but worshiping him, thanksgiving, honoring him, and just basking in his presence and delighting in who he is. Then throughout the day, if you know that you have a busy day, plan accordingly. That's the disciplined life. You can't just wing it and go willy-nilly and expect things to fall into place. It's not going to happen. And so you want to make sure that you go to sleep at a reasonable hour. If you know that you want to get up early to pray, so you want to get up at 5, go to sleep by 9. Right? But if you're wanting to get up at 5 and you're going to sleep at 12, throughout the day, you're going to crash and burn later in the day. So you have to balance your schedule based on your schedule. And people work different hours, so it would even depend on that. And then you look at the responsibilities you have throughout your day, whether you're raising children and you need to drop this one off or that one off, and just really structure your time. I know a wise thing to do is put alarms on. And that way you don't forget. If you have an iPhone, they have a section with an alarm. You can set an alarm for whatever the time. And that's kind of like a reminder. But I think it's important to first center on taking time to pray to God so that you can lay out your day before the Lord, seek his input, seek his advice, but making him a priority in your day and in your journey. There's a scripture in James chapter 4. I'll drop it below. I think I had it marked. Let me see if I have it marked. I might. Anyway, it's James chapter 4, and it's one that talks about that our life is a mist. He says our life is like a mist. Our lives are like a mist, right? Here today and gone tomorrow. And so because we know that life goes by so fast, it's like a mist. When you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's important to prioritize your eternal destiny, because there's nothing more important than that. Trust me, if you lose the job, they'll replace you right away. They'll be like, oh, we are so sorry we lost thus and so. But then the next day, they will be sending out an ad for your replacement. That quick and that cold. So the priority needs to be God, and just really surrendering and submitting your plans for the day. That's what I see here that Jesus did. And that's what it means to have, a life that is following after the discipline of Jesus. It's surrender, submitting your time to God, but also being aware of the season and time that you're in your life. Those are my insights on this, beloved. I'm sure you're getting your own deeper insights as you do deeper dives into this. But this is just to give us some food for thought on the disciplined life of Jesus and how to think about time. I hope you're doing well and you're having an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.